The Great Hall of Nexus Prime sparkled like a jewel in space. 12 different alien races sat around a massive crystal table that floated in the center of the chamber. Each species looked different from the others. Some had scales, others had fur, and a few looked like walking trees with glowing eyes. Ambassador Jiho stood alone in the middle of the circle. He was the only human in the room, and he felt very small. His dark suit looked plain compared to the colorful robes and strange armor worn by the aliens around him. The translator device in his ear buzzed softly as it changed the alien languages into words he could understand. High Regent Vorthak rose from his seat. He was tall and thin with purple skin and forearms. His voice was cold when he spoke. "We have called this meeting to solve the human problem," Vorthak said. "Your species has spread to too many worlds. You take resources that belong to more advanced races." Jiho kept his face calm, but his hands were tight fists at his sides. "With respect, High Regent, humans have only settled on worlds that no one else wanted. We took the dangerous planets, the ones with harsh weather and deadly animals." A sound like laughter came from the alien delegates. It was not a nice sound. "Exactly our point," said Counselor Zephax, a creature that looked like a giant bug with silver wings. "You Deathworlders live on planets that would kill civilized beings. This proves you are not ready for galactic society." Deathworlders. Jiho had heard that name before. The aliens used it to describe humans because Earth was considered one of the most dangerous planets in the galaxy. Most alien races came from safe worlds with gentle weather and friendly animals. They could not understand how humans had survived on a planet with storms, earthquakes, and predators. Another delegate spoke up. This one looked like a walking plant with purple flowers for a head. "Your kind fights too much. You have wars on your own planet. You cannot be trusted with advanced technology." Jiho stepped forward. "Every species has conflicts. Humans have learned from our mistakes. We have united as one people to explore the stars." "United?" Vorthak's laugh was sharp. "You still have different nations, different languages, different beliefs. True civilized races have moved past such primitive divisions." The human ambassador felt anger rise in his chest, but he pushed it down. Getting angry would only prove their point. "Human diversity makes us strong. We solve problems in many different ways." "Problems," repeated Counselor Moran, a being made of living stone. "Yes, you create many problems. Your colonies use too much energy. Your ships are too loud. Your people ask too many questions." "We are curious, we want to learn," Jiho said. "You want to take," Vorthak corrected. "That is why we have made our decision. All human colonies will be moved to reservation worlds. Your home system will be cleared for mining operations. The resources there are needed by races that can use them properly." The words hit Jiho like a physical blow. "You cannot do this. We have rights under galactic law." "Rights?" The plant being's flowers changed from purple to red. "Deathworlders have no rights. You are barely above animals in the eyes of civilized species." Jiho looked around the circle of aliens. Not one face showed any kindness or understanding. They had already decided. This meeting was not about discussion, it was about telling humans what would happen to them. "How long do we have?" Jiho asked quietly. 48 hours, Vorthak said. "After that, our fleets will enforce the relocation. Do not think about resisting. Your primitive weapons cannot stand against our technology." Light years away, Captain Minho received the message aboard the orbital station New Sol. The station floated high above Earth, watching over the blue and white planet below. Minho was a tall man with graying hair and tired eyes. He had been a soldier for 20 years, fighting in small conflicts across human space. The communication screen showed Ambassador Jiho's face. The man looked older than he had just a few days ago. "Captain, the decision has been made," Jiho said through the transmission. "We have 48 hours before they come." Minho closed his eyes for a moment. "How many ships?" "Intelligence reports at least 300 vessels. Dreadnoughts, carriers, and support ships. They are not taking chances." 300 ships, Minho repeated. The entire human fleet had maybe 50 combat-ready vessels. Most were old and had been built for exploring, not fighting. There is more, Jiho continued. They plan to strip mine our entire solar system. Earth, Mars, the outer planets, everything. They say the resources are wasted on Death Worlders. Minho opened his eyes and looked out at Earth below. He could see the lights of cities, the swirl of clouds over the oceans, and the green of forests. Millions of people lived down there. They had families, dreams, and hopes for the future. Now, aliens who had never set foot on Earth wanted to destroy it all. What are our orders, Ambassador? Officially, we are to prepare for peaceful evacuation. Unofficially, Jiho paused. Do what you think is right, Captain. The transmission ended. Minho sat alone in his command center, staring at the planet below. Through the large windows, he could see the blue marble that humans called home. It looked so peaceful. From space, but Minho knew better. Earth was a harsh world that had made humans strong. His communication officer, Lieutenant Yuna, entered the room. She was young and had been born on one of the outer colonies. Like many colony-born humans, she was tough and did not scare easily. Captain, we are getting reports from across the system, she said. The mining stations on the outer planets, the research bases, the military outposts. Everyone wants to know what we should do. Minho thought about the alien delegates who called humans Death Worlders. They said it like it was something shameful. But Minho had been born on Earth. He had grown up with storms that could level cities, earthquakes that could split mountains, and animals that could kill with tooth and claw. Every day on Earth was a fight for survival. Maybe the aliens were, maybe humans were Death Worlders. But they had made one big mistake. They thought being from a Death World made humans weak. They were about to learn how wrong they were. Send a message to all human ships and stations, Minho said. Tell them to prepare for combat operations. If the aliens want to fight, we will. Give them one they will never forget. Lieutenant Yuna smiled. It was not a nice smile. It was the smile of someone who had grown up fighting impossible odds and winning. Yes, sir. Should I also contact the colonial militias? Contact everyone, Minho said. Every human with a ship, a gun, or just the will to fight. It is time to show the galaxy what Death Worlders can really do. As Lieutenant Yuna left to send the messages, Minho looked out at Earth one more time. The aliens called it a Death World, but to him it was the most beautiful sight in the universe, and he would die before he let anyone take it away. Admiral Korath stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching Earth grow larger on the main screen. The planet looked blue and white from space, covered in swirling clouds and vast oceans. To Korath, it looked like a nightmare world. His home planet was dry and stable, with perfect weather every day and no dangerous animals. Admiral, the first wave is ready for deployment, reported his second-in-command, Captain Velox. The reptilian officer's scales changed color when he was excited, and right now they were bright green. Korath nodded. Begin the landing. Target the major population centers. This should be over quickly. The alien fleet was massive. 300 ships filled the space around Earth like a metal cloud. Each ship was sleek and silver, built by races that had never known real war. Their weapons were designed to destroy other spaceships, not to fight on hostile planets. Korath had conquered 12 worlds for the Galactic Council. All of them had surrendered after seeing his fleet. The inhabitants had been civilized beings who understood that fighting was pointless. They had packed their belongings and left peacefully. Earth would be different, but not in the way Korath expected. The first landing ships entered Earth's atmosphere over the continent called Asia. The ships were full of soldiers from different alien races. Most had never been on a planet with weather that changed or animals that hunted. Sergeant Yuna crouched behind a broken wall in what used to be downtown Seoul. The city was partially evacuated, but many people had stayed to fight. She watched through her scope as the alien ships landed in the central plaza. Steam rose from their hot hulls as they touched down in the middle of a light rain. The aliens that came out of the ships moved slowly and carefully. They wore full environmental suits and carried weapons that hummed with energy. Yuna counted about 50 soldiers in the first group. They formed a perfect circle around their landing craft and began scanning the empty buildings. They looked nervous, whispered Private Shung, who was hiding next to her. He was young, maybe 20 years old, but he had grown up in the mountains where winter could kill you if you were not careful. Good, Una said. Nervous enemies make mistakes. She pressed a button on her radio. Across the city, other human soldiers got the signal. The real fight was about to begin. The alien soldiers began moving toward the nearest building. Their leader, a tall being with blue skin and 4 eyes, pointed at windows with his scanner. The device made beeping sounds as it searched for human life signs. That was when the rain started getting heavier. On their homeworlds, weather was controlled by machines. Rain fell when it was needed and stopped when it was not. But Earth's weather did what it wanted. The light rain became a storm, and the storm became something the aliens had never experienced. Water poured from the sky in sheets. The wind howled between buildings, carrying dust and debris that stung exposed skin. Lightning flashed overhead, followed by thunder so loud it made the ground shake. The alien soldiers stopped moving. Their environmental suits were not made for this kind of weather. Water got into their sensors and the wind pushed them off balance. Their perfect formation fell apart as they struggled to stay standing. Now, Una whispered into her radio. The attack came from everywhere at once. Humans appeared in windows, on rooftops, and in doorways. They had been waiting in the storm like it was nothing unusual. Some wore simple raincoats. Others were completely soaked but still moving fast and sure. The aliens tried to return fire, but their energy weapons did not work well in the rain. Water got into the focusing crystals, and the beams scattered in all directions. Their targeting systems could not lock onto humans who moved like shadows through the storm. Una fired her rifle and saw an alien soldier fall. The bullet was simple lead and metal, nothing fancy, but it worked in any weather. Around the city, more gunshots rang out as other humans joined the fight. "Fall back to the ships," the alien leader shouted into his communicator, but falling back was harder than it sounded. The streets were flooding with rainwater and the aliens' boots were not made for running on wet pavement. Lieutenant Dongyuk watched the aliens retreat from his position on a nearby hill. He was a thin man with dark eyes who had learned to fight in the mountains of North Korea. His grandfather had taught him that the land itself could be a weapon if you knew how to use it. The aliens reached their landing craft, but the ships could not take off. The storm was too strong and the pilots could not see through the rain and lightning. They were trapped on the ground with enemies all around them. Phase 2, Dongyuk said into his radio. Across the hills around Seoul, human soldiers began their real attack. They had been born in this weather. They had learned to move in storms that would kill most aliens. Rain, wind, and lightning were as familiar to them as sunshine. The aliens tried to form defensive positions around their ships, but they could not see more than a few feet in any direction. Human soldiers seemed to appear from nowhere, fire a few shots and disappear again. It was like fighting ghosts. Captain Minho watched the battle from the orbital station New Seoul. His communication officer was receiving reports from all over Earth. "Sir, similar attacks are happening everywhere," Lieutenant Una reported. She was not the same Una fighting in Seoul, but another officer with the same name. "Australia is having a dust storm. The aliens cannot use their equipment. Brazil is reporting heavy jungle fighting. The aliens are lost in the trees." "What about Africa?" Minho asked. "The Sahara Desert units report complete success. The aliens cannot handle the heat. Their cooling systems are failing." Minho nodded. He had expected this. Humans lived on every part of Earth because they had learned to survive in every environment. Hot deserts, cold mountains, wet jungles, frozen tundra, places that would kill most aliens in hours. And the ocean attacks? Captain G1 reports that her naval forces are having great success. The aliens have never fought on water before. They get seasick in small waves. Dr. Soman worked frantically in her laboratory beneath the city of Busan. She was a xenobiologist, someone who studied alien life forms. For years she had wondered what aliens would be like. Now she knew, and she was not impressed. The alien prisoners that had been captured were physically stronger than humans and had better technology. But they had one huge weakness. They could not adapt. The blue-skinned alien soldier sat in the corner of his cell, shaking with fear. Dr. Samin had asked him simple questions about his home world. The answers told her everything she needed to know. The alien came from a planet where the temperature never changed, where it never rained, where there were no dangerous animals. His people had lived in perfect safety for thousands of years. They had no idea how to fight in difficult conditions. Interesting, Dr. Soman said to her assistant. They are like greenhouse plants, beautiful and perfect, but they die if you take them outside. Meanwhile, Commander Kyungho prepared his naval forces for the next phase of the battle. His ships waited in Busan Harbor as alien aircraft flew overhead. The aliens were trying to bomb the port, but they had never fought over water before. The ocean was rough that day, with waves 10 feet high. For human sailors, this was normal weather. For aliens who had never seen an ocean, it was terrifying. When the alien ships came low to attack, Kyungho's forces were ready. Anti-aircraft guns fired from ships that rode the waves like they were dancing. The aliens could not aim properly because their ships kept moving up and down with the motion of the water below them. Several alien aircraft crashed into the ocean. Their pilots had no idea how to handle the crosswinds and air currents that came from fighting over water. The human pilots who rescued some of the survivors found them vomiting and shaking from fear. As night fell over Earth, Admiral Korath looked at the reports coming in from the surface. Every landing had failed. Thousands of his soldiers were dead, captured, or missing. The humans had fought like demons, using their horrible world as a weapon. Admiral, Captain Velok said quietly, maybe we should ask for reinforcements. Korath stared at the blue and white planet below. It looked so peaceful from space, but he was beginning to understand why the Galactic Council called it a death world. Everything about the planet was designed to kill. The weather, the terrain, the animals, even the humans themselves. Send the message, Korath said. Tell the Council we need more ships. What he did not say was what he was really thinking. For the first time in his military career, Admiral Korath was afraid. The Death Worlders were not primitive barbarians. They were something much worse. They were survivors. 3 days had passed since the first alien landings failed. Admiral Korath stood in his command center looking at damage reports from across Earth. His invasion force had lost nearly half its ground troops. The humans had not just fought back. They had won. Sir, reinforcements are arriving, Captain Velox reported. His scales were now a dull gray color, which meant he was worried. 500 more ships, including the hegemony's best battle cruisers. Korath nodded, but he did not feel better. More ships meant the Galactic Council was taking this seriously. It also meant they expected him to win quickly, or they would find someone else to command the fleet. Begin orbital bombardment of military targets, Korath ordered. If the humans want to fight, we will force them to surrender. On Earth's surface, General Seokjin felt the ground shake as alien energy beams struck military bases around the world. He was in a deep bunker beneath the Rocky Mountains, where the human military had moved after the first attacks. The bunker had been built during the old nuclear wars, designed to survive anything. Sir, we have lost contact with Peterson Air Force Base, reported his aide, Colonel Heejin. She was a small woman with sharp eyes who had fought in 3 different wars. The aliens hit it with some kind of plasma cannon. How many casualties? Seokjin asked. Unknown. But the base is gone, sir. Completely vaporized. Seokjin closed his eyes. Thousands of people had worked at that base. Good people, with families and dreams. Now they were dead because aliens thought humans were not worth keeping alive. Colonel, activate Protocol Cerberus. Hyojin stopped moving. Protocol Cerberus was humanity's most secret military program. Only a few dozen people in the entire world knew it existed. Sir, are you sure? Once we activate it, there is no going back. They want to see what Death Worlders can really do, Seokjin said. Let us show them. Across the planet, hidden facilities began to wake up. These were not ordinary military bases. They were research centers where humans had been preparing for war among the stars. For 50 years, humanity had been developing weapons and tactics for fighting in space, on hostile planets, and against unknown enemies. Engineer Nayan received the activation codes at the Detroit Industrial Complex. The facility looked like an ordinary car factory, but that was just a disguise. Deep underground, massive machines began to change the production lines. Instead of making cars, the factory began producing war machines, tanks that could operate in any atmosphere, weapons that worked in extreme cold or heat, armor that could protect soldiers from radiation that would kill most aliens. But the most important production was something else entirely. Combat suits, designed for fighting in environments that would be instantly lethal to most life forms. The humans called them environmental combat systems, but they had a simpler name too. Death World Armor. Corporal Wu Jin was one of the first to test the new equipment. He stood in a chamber that simulated the surface of Jupiter's moon Io. The temperature was 300 degrees below zero. The atmosphere was pure sulfur, and radiation levels would cook most aliens in seconds. Wu Jin felt warm and comfortable inside his armor. He had been born on Titan, Saturn's largest moon, where humans had learned to live in conditions that most species could not even imagine. This armor made those conditions feel like a summer day. Testing complete, he reported over the radio. The armor works perfectly. I can operate in any environment the aliens might use as a weapon. On the moon, Dr. Ji-hoon watched the destruction of his hometown through a telescope. The aliens had bombed the city where he had grown up, where his parents still lived. He did not know if they were alive or dead, but he knew one thing for certain. The aliens would pay for what they had done. Dr. Ji-hoon was a physicist who had spent his career studying alien technology. Every ship that had crashed, every weapon that had been captured, every piece of equipment that humans had found. He had studied them all. Now he understood their weakness. The aliens had amazing technology, but they had never needed to make it tough. Their weapons worked perfectly in laboratory conditions but failed when things got difficult. Their ships were fast and powerful, but broke down when they had to fight in bad weather. Human technology was different. It had to work in storms, in space, in deserts and jungles. It had to keep working when everything went wrong. Because on Earth, things always went wrong. Dr. Ji-hoon began designing new weapons based on this knowledge, not fancy energy beams that stopped working in the rain, but simple, reliable tools of war that would function no matter what the aliens threw at them. On Mars, Governor Hana received the call for help from Earth. Mars was humanity's first major colony, a red desert world where humans had learned to survive with almost no water and air so thin it would kill most aliens instantly. The people who lived on Mars were tough. They had to be or they died. Children learned to fix life support systems before they learned to read. Teenagers could survive for days in the Martian wilderness with nothing but a breathing mask and a water bottle. Prepare the fleet, Governor, Hana ordered. Every ship, every weapon, every person who can fight. Earth needs us. Her aide, a young woman named Sun-hee, looked worried. Governor, if we send our defense fleet to Earth, Mars will be unprotected. Mars has been unprotected for 50 years, Hana replied. We have survived by being too tough to kill. The aliens want to find out what Deathworlders can do in a real fight. Let us show them. The Martian fleet was not pretty. The ships were built for function, not looks. They had thick armor, multiple backup systems, and weapons that could operate in the vacuum of space or in planetary atmospheres. Most importantly, they were crewed by people who had never known safety. Captain Junho commanded the converted mining vessel New Horizon. His ship had been built to break apart asteroids and survived crashes that would destroy any normal spacecraft. Now it was armed with weapons designed by people who understood that in space, everything tried to kill you. Sir, we have clearance for departure, his pilot reported. Take us to Earth, Junho ordered. It is time to bring some Deathworld justice to these aliens. Back on Earth, the orbital bombardment continued. The aliens targeted cities, military bases, and anything that looked important. They thought that enough destruction would make humans surrender. They were wrong. Every bomb that fell, every building that was destroyed, every innocent person who died, just made the humans angrier. And angry humans were the most dangerous creatures in the galaxy. Major Da Yoon coordinated the global resistance from her command center in the Australian outback. The desert was so hot and dry that the aliens could barely survive there, even in their environmental suits. It was the perfect place for humans to plan their revenge. "Status report from all sectors," she ordered. The reports came in from around the world. South America, humans using jungle warfare to destroy alien supply lines. Africa, desert fighters leading aliens into death traps in the Sahara. Asia, mountain troops picking off alien patrols in the Himalayas. "Ma'am, we are ready for Operation Thunderstorm," reported her communications officer. Major Da-hyun smiled. It was not a nice smile. It was the smile of someone who had grown up in a place where the sun could kill you and the wildlife was even more dangerous. "Begin the operation. Show these aliens what happens when you bomb a death world." Around the planet, hidden weapon systems came online. Not the fancy energy weapons that the aliens used, but simple, reliable tools of destruction. Railguns that fired chunks of metal at incredible speeds. Chemical explosives that worked in any atmosphere. Kinetic weapons that used gravity and momentum to destroy targets. The aliens had never seen anything like it. Their shields were designed to stop energy beams, not solid projectiles moving at orbital speeds. Their armor could deflect plasma, but not simple steel moving fast enough to punch through mountains. For the first time since the invasion began, alien ships began exploding in Earth's orbit. Admiral Korath watched his beautiful fleet turn into scrap metal and tried to understand what was happening. The humans were using primitive weapons, but somehow those weapons were more effective than the advanced technology of the Galactic Council. "Sir, we have lost contact with Battle Group 7, Captain Velox reported. His scales were now black, with fear. Their entire formation has been destroyed. How? What weapons are the humans using? We do not know, sir. Our sensors cannot identify the projectiles until they hit our ships. By then it is too late." Korath realized he had made a terrible mistake. He had thought that being from a death world made humans weak and primitive, but it was the opposite. Being from a death world had made them the most dangerous warriors in the galaxy, and now they were coming for his fleet. Private Minseok crouched in a mountain cave, watching alien troops march through the valley below. He had been fighting for a week without sleep, living on cold rations and melted snow. For him, this was normal. He had grown up in these mountains where winter lasted 8 months and summer was just a short break from the cold. The aliens moved slowly through the snow, their environmental suits struggling with the thin air and freezing temperatures. They did not know that human eyes were watching them from every ridge, every cave, every tree that still had leaves. Minseok spoke quietly into his radio. "Eagle's Nest. This is Wolf Pack. The prey is in position. Copy, Wolf Pack. Light them up." The massacre of civilians had awakened something dark in humanity's heart. Across the galaxy, human colonies received emergency broadcasts showing the destruction of Earth's cities, men, women, and children vaporized by alien weapons. Entire families erased from existence because they lived on a death world. The response was immediate and terrible. Captain Junho pushed his converted mining ship New Horizon to maximum speed. Around him, the Martian defense fleet streaked through space, toward Earth. These were not military vessels. They were cargo haulers, asteroid miners, and colony transports. But they were crewed by people who had spent their lives fighting hostile environments. "Sir, we are receiving communications from other human colonies," his pilot reported. "The Europa ice miners, the Titan gas workers, the asteroid belt stations, everyone is coming." Junho nodded grimly. Humans had spread across the solar system by going to places no other species wanted. The moons of Jupiter, where radiation would kill most aliens instantly. The asteroid belt, where one mistake meant death in the vacuum of space. The outer planets, where the cold was so intense that atmosphere froze solid. These colonies had produced the toughest humans who had ever lived. And now they were all coming home to fight. On Earth, the resistance had stopped being defensive. Operation Thunderstorm was in full swing, and the aliens were learning what it meant to fight people who had nothing left to lose. Major Da-hyun coordinated the attacks from her command center in the Australian desert. The heat outside was 50 degrees Celsius, hot enough to kill most alien species in minutes. For humans who had grown up in the outback, it was just another day. Report from Sector 7, her communications officer announced. Colonel Sang-hoon has taken the alien supply depot in the Sahara. No survivors. Sector 12 reports complete success. The alien landing base in Antarctica has been destroyed. Commander Yoonji used the cold as a weapon. The aliens froze to death before they could retreat. And Sector 3? Private Minseok is still holding the mountain pass. He has been fighting alone for 2 days, but the aliens cannot get through. They keep sending reinforcements, but none come back. Major Da-hyun allowed herself a small smile. The aliens had expected humans to surrender after seeing their cities bombed. Instead, it had made them fight harder. Every dead civilian created 10 new resistance fighters. Every destroyed building became a fortress. Every crater became a trap. The aliens were learning that Death Worlders did not break. They bent, and then they snapped back twice as hard. In space, the battle was becoming even more one-sided. Human ships were arriving from every corner of the solar system, and they brought with them weapons the aliens had never imagined. The cargo ship Heavy Lifter had been modified by miners from the asteroid belt. Instead of carrying ore, it now launched chunks of metal at incredible speeds. The projectiles were simple iron and rock, but they hit with the force of nuclear weapons. The research vessel Deep Thinker came from Jupiter's moons. It had been designed to study the gas giant's radiation-soaked environment. Now it used that same radiation as a weapon, focusing deadly energy beams that cooked alien crews inside their ships. Even the colony transports had become dangerous. The passenger ship New Beginning had been carrying families to Mars when the war started. Now those same families were operating weapon systems, using their knowledge of life support and environmental control to turn alien ships into death traps. Admiral Korath watched his fleet die and tried to understand how primitive Deathworlders were defeating the most advanced military force in the galaxy. His beautiful ships, built by races that had mastered technology for thousands of years, were being destroyed by converted mining equipment and scrap metal. Sir, we have lost contact with the entire 3rd Battle Group, Captain Velox reported. His scales had turned completely black. The humans destroyed 12 capital ships in less than an hour. How many ships do we have left? Less than 200, sir. And more human vessels are arriving every hour. They seem to be coming from everywhere. Korath looked at the tactical display. Red dots showed his remaining ships. Blue dots showed human vessels. There were 3 times as many blue dots as red ones, and more appeared every few minutes. Where? Are they getting so many ships? He wondered aloud. The answer was simple, though Korath could not understand it. Humans had spread across the solar system by using every available vessel. Cargo ships, research vessels, mining platforms, even pleasure craft had been pressed into service to carry colonists to new worlds. Now all of those ships were coming home to fight, and they were crewed by people who had learned to survive in places that would kill most aliens instantly. On Earth's surface, the tide of battle had completely turned. The aliens were no longer attacking. They were running. Sergeant Yuna led her squad through the ruins of Seoul, hunting the retreating alien forces. The city was damaged but not destroyed. The aliens had tried to bomb it, but humans had built their cities to survive earthquakes, tsunamis, and hurricanes. Alien energy weapons were just another natural disaster to overcome. Movement 2 o'clock, whispered Private Shung. He was pointing at a group of buildings where alien soldiers were trying to hide. Yuna studied the area through her scope. The aliens were moving in a perfect formation, just like they had been trained. But their training was for fighting on safe worlds against civilized enemies. They had no idea how to fight urban warfare against people who knew every street, every building, every hiding place. Flank them from the left, she ordered. Use the subway tunnels. Her squad disappeared into the underground passages that ran beneath the city. These tunnels had been built for transportation, but they also served as shelter during natural disasters. Now they were highways for human soldiers who could move unseen beneath the aliens' feet. The attack came from below, above and all sides at once. The aliens never had a chance to return fire. In minutes, it was over. This scene was repeated across the planet. Humans had spent thousands of years learning to fight in every possible environment: deserts, jungles, mountains, cities, even underwater. The aliens had lived on safe worlds where fighting was done by remote control from comfortable command centers. Commander Unji proved this point when she took her submarine force into action. The aliens had never developed underwater combat tactics because most of their worlds had no oceans. When her torpedoes started sinking their supply ships, they had no idea how to respond. The alien pilots tried to bomb the submarines, but they could not find them. Human submarines were designed to hide in Earth's vast oceans, where pressure would crush most alien vessels and where sonar was confused by marine life and underwater geography. When Yunji's subs surfaced to attack, they did so in the middle of storms that grounded alien aircraft. By the time the weather cleared, the submarines were gone and alien ships were burning on the ocean floor. Dr. Soman worked in her laboratory, studying captured alien technology. What she found confirmed her earlier theories. The aliens had amazing science, but they had never needed to make their equipment robust. Their computers crashed when exposed to electromagnetic pulses from lightning storms. Their weapons overheated, in high temperatures and froze in cold weather. Their vehicles broke down when driven over rough terrain. Human technology was different. It had been designed by people who knew that everything would eventually break down, wear out, or be damaged by hostile environments. Human equipment was built to be repaired with simple tools, to work in extreme conditions, and to keep functioning when everything else failed. It is like comparing a race car to a military truck, Dr. Samin explained to her research team. The race car is faster and more elegant, but the truck will still be running after the race car has broken down. She began developing new weapons based on this principle. Not energy beams that required perfect conditions, but simple kinetic weapons that worked anywhere. Not complex targeting systems that failed in bad weather, but basic sights that functioned, even when damaged. The aliens had built their military for fighting other civilized races in controlled conditions. Humans had built theirs for fighting in hell and winning. Scientist Changmin made another important discovery. The alien soldiers were not just technologically dependent. They were psychologically unprepared for real combat. They came from worlds where conflict was rare and usually settled by negotiation or economic pressure. Most of them had never seen death before coming to Earth. They had certainly never been in a situation where they might die violently. The stress of combat in hostile conditions was breaking their minds as well as their technology. Human soldiers, by contrast, had grown up with stories of war. They knew that life was dangerous and death was always possible. They had been preparing for conflict their entire lives, even if they had never admitted it. When alien reinforcements finally arrived, they found a disaster. Most of their invasion fleet was destroyed or retreating. The humans were not just winning. They were hunting down alien survivors like predators chasing prey. Admiral Korath received a message from the Galactic Council demanding an explanation for his failures. He tried to find words to describe what he had witnessed. But how could he explain that primitive Deathworlders had become the most terrifying enemy he had ever faced? The new alien commander was Admiral Thrak, a warrior from the militaristic hegemony. Unlike Admiral Korath, Thrak had actually fought in real wars. He had conquered systems and crushed rebellions. He was supposed to be the best military mind in the galaxy. He lasted 6 hours. Colonel Sanghoon led the assault on Thrak's command ship. The boarding action began when human fighters punched through the alien fleet's defenses using tactics that no civilized race had ever imagined. Instead of trying to fight their way through the alien weapons, the human ships flew straight into Earth's atmosphere. The aliens followed, expecting an easy victory in space combat. But the humans were not trying to fight in space. They were luring the aliens into Earth's gravity well. At 30,000 feet above the Pacific Ocean, the human fighters suddenly changed direction. They had been built to operate in atmospheric conditions that would tear apart most alien craft. The pursuing alien ships, designed for the vacuum of space, began breaking apart in Earth's thick atmosphere. Those that survived the atmospheric entry found themselves in the middle of a Category 5 hurricane. Colonel Sang-hoon's boarding craft rode the storm winds like a surfboard, using the hurricane's power to accelerate toward the alien command ship. The aliens tried to shoot down the approaching humans, but their targeting systems could not function in the chaotic weather. 30 seconds to contact, Sang-hoon announced to his assault team. They were all volunteers, people who had grown up in Earth's harshest environments, mountain climbers from the Himalayas, oil rig workers from the North Sea, Arctic researchers from Antarctica. The boarding craft punched through the alien ship's hull like a bullet through paper. Sang-hoon and his team were inside the enemy vessel, before the aliens knew what had happened. The aliens had never experienced boarding combat before. Their ships were designed with the assumption that enemies would fight at a distance, using energy weapons and guided missiles. The idea of soldiers actually entering an enemy ship and fighting hand-to-hand was completely foreign to them. Sang-hoon's team moved through the alien corridors like ghosts. They had trained for this kind of fighting in the tight spaces of mining, tunnels, and submarine passages. The aliens, used to wide-open spaces and perfect lighting, could barely function in the cramped, damaged interior of their own ship. Within an hour, Admiral Thrak was dead, and his flagship was under human control. Aliens began to panic. 2 of their best commanders had been defeated by primitive Deathworlders using tactics that made no sense. Energy weapons were useless in bad weather. Spaceships could not survive in planetary atmospheres. Ground troops could not function in hostile environments. Everything the aliens thought they knew about warfare was wrong. Dr. Minji had been working on biological weapons since the war began. Not the kind that killed indiscriminately, but targeted toxins that exploited the differences between human and alien biology. The breakthrough came when she realized that most alien races had evolved on worlds with very few dangerous microorganisms. Their immune systems were weak compared to humans, who had spent millions of years fighting off diseases that would kill most other species instantly. "It is not about creating new pathogens," she explained to her research team. "We just need to expose them to Earth biology. Their bodies cannot handle what we consider normal bacteria." The first biological attack was launched in the Amazon rainforest. Alien troops trying to establish a base found themselves surrounded by an ecosystem that was actively trying to kill them. Insects carrying diseases that were harmless to humans but lethal to aliens. Plants that produced toxins that human lungs could filter, but alien respiratory systems could not. Within days, the entire alien force was dead or evacuated. Similar attacks followed around the world. In the African savanna, alien soldiers were killed by parasites that lived peacefully in human intestines but destroyed alien digestive systems. In the Arctic tundra, aliens died from exposure to cold that Inuit children played in without protection. Captain Wanho commanded the defense of the Australian outback, where the extreme heat had become humanity's greatest weapon. The desert temperature reached 60 degrees Celsius during the day, hot enough to cook alien soldiers inside their environmental suits. But the real killer was not the heat, it was the wildlife. Australia had spent millions of years evolving creatures that were perfectly adapted to kill. Snakes with venom that could drop an elephant, spiders whose bite caused agonizing death, crocodiles that could bite through steel. The aliens had no defense against Earth's most dangerous animals. Their energy shields stopped projectiles and energy beams, but they could not keep out a tiny spider or a venomous snake. "Sir, the aliens are retreating from Sector 12, reported Wanho's communications officer. "The last patrol was found dead from spider bites. Their medics cannot treat Earth-based toxins," Wanho nodded. He had grown up in this desert where children learned to identify deadly creatures before they learned to walk. What was a nightmare environment for aliens was simply home for humans. The tide had completely turned. Aliens were no longer attacking human positions. They were running from them. Admiral Jisoo arrived from the outer colonies with the most dangerous humans in the solar system. These were the people who had volunteered to live on worlds where the atmosphere was poison, the radiation was lethal, and a single equipment failure meant certain death. The crew of the mining platform Deep Drill had spent 20 years working in the asteroid belt, where the vacuum of space and deadly radiation were everyday hazards. The colonists from Europa had learned to survive under miles of ice. where a single crack in their habitat meant death by freezing. The researchers from Titan had mastered life in an atmosphere so thick and toxic that it would kill most aliens in seconds. The solar collectors from Mercury worked in temperatures that would vaporize most spacecraft. These humans had pushed the boundaries of what was possible. They had gone to places where no other species could survive and made them into homes. Now they were bringing their expertise to the war. Admiral Jisu's flagship was the Heavy Metal, a converted asteroid mining platform that had been turned into a weapons system. It did not use energy beams or guided missiles. It used gravity. The ship would position itself near an enemy vessel and then activate mining equipment designed to break apart asteroids. The gravitational fields generated by this equipment would literally tear alien ships apart, crushing them like tin cans. "Target the enemy command group," Admiral Jisu ordered. "Show them what Death World engineering can accomplish." The alien fleet tried to retreat, but it was too late. Human ships surrounded them like a pack of wolves. These were not military vessels. They were cargo haulers, research ships, and colony transports. But they were crewed by people who had learned that in space, everything tried to kill you. The battle was over in hours. The alien survivors sent desperate messages to the Galactic Council, begging for rescue. But the Council was beginning to understand that they had made a terrible mistake. They had not attacked a primitive species. They had attacked the most dangerous warriors in the galaxy. On Earth, the resistance had become a hunting campaign. Human soldiers tracked down alien survivors with the patience of predators and the ruthlessness of people who had seen their homes destroyed. Lieutenant Donghyuk had been hunting the same alien patrol for a week. He moved through the Korean mountains like a shadow, appearing long enough to kill one or two enemies and then vanishing back into terrain he knew better than his own bedroom. The aliens were terrified. They had started with 50 soldiers. Now, only 12 remained, and they knew that the human hunter was still out there, watching and waiting. "We cannot fight like this," their leader transmitted to the orbiting fleet. "The human knows every rock, every tree, every hiding place. He is not just using the terrain. He has become part of it." This was happening all over Earth. Human soldiers, who had grown up in harsh environments, were using their homeworld as the ultimate weapon. Every mountain, every desert, every jungle had become a fortress that aliens could not conquer. Major Dahyun coordinated the final phase of the ground war from her command center. The aliens were no longer organized military units. They were scattered survivors trying to find ways off the planet. "Status report from all sectors," she ordered. Sector 1, all alien forces eliminated or in retreat. Sector 7, no alien activity detected for 48 hours. Sector 12, Captain Wanho reports the outback is clear. All alien equipment has been destroyed by environmental conditions. And Private Minseok? Still holding his mountain pass, ma'am. The alien stopped trying to get through 3 days ago. Major Dahyun smiled. The aliens had thought they were attacking a primitive world full of savage barbarians. Instead, they had found themselves fighting the planet itself, and the planet was winning. In space, the last alien ships were trying to escape the solar system. But human vessels from every corner of human space had formed a blockade. Mining, ships, research vessels, cargo haulers, and colony transports. All of them crewed by people who had spent their lives fighting hostile environments and winning. The alien survivors found themselves trapped between Earth and the outer planets, surrounded by enemies they had dismissed as primitive deathworlders. The humans were no longer defending their home. The final battle took place not just around Earth, but across 3 star systems. Human ships that had seemed to appear from nowhere were actually the colonial fleets that had been quietly building strength for decades. Every mining operation, every research station, every desperate colony on an impossible world had contributed ships and crews to the war effort. General Hyun Bin commanded the combined human fleet from the bridge of the converted cargo ship Endurance. The vessel had once carried supplies to Mars colonies. Now it bristled with weapons designed by people who understood that in space, simple and reliable beats complex and fragile every time. "Admiral Korath is requesting permission to surrender," his communications officer reported. The original alien commander had been given one last chance to redeem himself, but his new fleet was being destroyed just as quickly as his first one. "Tell him he can surrender when every alien ship leaves our solar system," Hyunbin replied. "Until then, we keep fighting." The human tactics were unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Instead of fighting ship to ship in organized formations, human vessels attacked like a swarm of angry insects. They came from all directions at once, using asteroids and planets as cover, striking fast and disappearing before the aliens could respond. Captain Minho had left his orbital station to command a squadron of converted mining ships. These vessels had been built to survive collisions with asteroids and operate in the radiation-soaked environment near the sun. Now they used that same toughness to get close to alien ships and deliver devastating attacks. "Remember," he told his pilots, "these aliens have never fought anyone who could take damage and keep coming. Their ships are beautiful, but they break when you hit them hard enough." The mining ship Tough Customer proved his point. It rammed straight through an alien cruiser's shields and hull, using mining drills to tear the enemy vessel apart from the inside. The alien ship was completely destroyed. The human ship lost some paint. Meanwhile, Ambassador Jiho was making his own kind of war. He had returned to the Galactic Council, but this time he was not asking for mercy. He was delivering an ultimatum. The council chamber on Nexus Prime was in chaos. Representatives from 12 different species were arguing and shouting as reports came in of the total defeat of their invasion fleet. The humans they had dismissed as primitive Deathworlders had not just survived the attack, they had won decisively. "This is impossible," High Regent Vorthak declared. His forearms waved frantically as he tried to understand the reports. 800 ships, the finest technology in the galaxy, completely defeated by mining equipment and cargo vessels. "Not defeated," Ambassador Jiho corrected quietly. "Destroyed. Your fleets are not retreating, they are running for their lives." The plant-being Counselor Moran's flowers had changed from their usual purple to a sickly yellow. "You cannot be serious. Your species uses primitive kinetic weapons and chemical explosives. How can such basic technology defeat our energy shields and plasma cannons?" Jiho smiled, but it was not a pleasant expression. "You built your weapons for fighting other civilized races in controlled conditions. We built ours for fighting in hell and winning. Your beautiful ships break down when things get difficult. Our ugly ships are designed to keep working no matter what you throw at them." He activated a holographic display showing the battle around Earth. Alien ships, sleek and elegant, were being torn apart by human vessels that looked like flying junkyards. But the junkyard ships kept fighting even when half their systems were destroyed. "You see," Jiho continued, "the problem with calling us Deathworlders is that you forgot what that actually means. We come from a planet that has been trying to kill us for millions of years. Every storm, every earthquake, every predator has made us stronger. We did not just survive Earth, we conquered it." Counselor Zephax's silver wings buzzed nervously. "But your technology is so primitive. You use gunpowder and metal projectiles." "And they work," Jiho replied simply. "Your energy weapons stop functioning when it rains. Our bullets work in any weather, any atmosphere, any condition. You built weapons for a laboratory. We built them for war." The council chamber fell silent as the full scope of their mistake became clear. They had not attacked a primitive species. They had attacked survivors who had spent their entire evolutionary history learning to fight impossible odds and win. Back in Earth's solar system, the final alien resistance was collapsing. Captain Junho's Martian fleet had cornered the last enemy battle group near Jupiter. The aliens were trying to use the gas giant's radiation as a shield, thinking that no living being could survive in such a hostile environment. They had forgotten that humans lived on Jupiter's moons. "All ships, prepare for attack run," Junho ordered. "Remember, we grew up in this radiation. It cannot hurt us, but it will cook them alive if their shields fail." The human ships dove into Jupiter's radiation belt like dolphins entering water. The alien vessels tried to follow, but their crews began dying from radiation poisoning within minutes. Their ships, designed for the safe environments of civilized worlds, had no protection against the natural hazards of a gas giant. The battle was over before it began. The alien survivors surrendered rather than face death by radiation. On Europa, one of Jupiter's ice-covered moons, Commander Yunji received reports of the victory. She had been preparing her submarine forces for an underwater assault, but it was no longer needed. The war was essentially over. "Ma'am, we are receiving communications from alien ships throughout the outer system," her communications officer reported. "They are all requesting permission to surrender." "Tell them to form up and prepare for escort out of the solar system," Yunji replied. "Any ship that tries to run will be destroyed." Dr. Soman was already working on the peace treaty. As a xenobiologist, she understood both human and alien psychology better than most. She knew that this war had changed everything. "The aliens will never see us the same way again," she explained to her research team. "They thought being from a death world made us weak. Now they know it made us the most dangerous species in the galaxy." Her assistant, a young scientist named Jinwoo, looked worried. "Will they try to attack us again?" "No," Dr. Soman said with certainty. "They will be too afraid. We have shown them what happens when you underestimate Deathworlders. The galaxy will remember this lesson for a very long time." She was right. Across the galaxy, species that had never heard of humans were learning about the Deathworld race that had defeated the greatest military force in known space. The story spread from system to system, growing more impressive with each telling. On Earth, the cleanup was beginning. Cities were being rebuilt, but they were different now. Stronger, more prepared for the next time someone tried to attack humanity's. Homeworld Colonel Heejin oversaw the construction of new defense systems. These were not the pretty energy shields that the aliens used. They were simple, reliable kinetic barriers that would work in any conditions. If anyone else tried to attack Earth, they would find it even harder to conquer than before. "Ma'am, we have received requests from 17 different species asking for defense treaties," her aide reported. "They want human protection against other, hostile races." Heejin was not surprised. The galaxy had learned that humans were not just good at surviving hostile environments. They were good at making those environments hostile for their enemies. Private Minseok finally came down from his mountain pass. He had been fighting alone for 2 weeks, but the aliens had stopped trying to get through days ago. Now he walked back to civilization, carrying weapons he had taken from enemies who had thought they were superior to Deathworlders. "How many did you stop?" asked the first human soldier he met. "All of them," Minseok replied simply. That was the human way. When faced with impossible odds, they did not surrender. They found a way to win. Ambassador Jiho completed his speech to the Galactic Council with a simple statement that would be remembered throughout the galaxy for centuries. "You called us Deathworlders as an insult," he said. "We accept the title as a badge of honor. We are the people who looked at the most hostile environments in the galaxy and decided to call them home. We are the species that takes impossible odds and makes them possible." He paused, looking around at the alien delegates who no longer seemed quite so confident. "If you ever threaten us again, you will learn what it really means to fight Deathworlders who are angry." The vote to grant humanity full membership in the Galactic Council was unanimous. Captain Minho accepted the formal surrender of Admiral Korath aboard the alien flagship. The once proud vessel was battered and barely functional, its crew terrified of their human captors. "I do not understand," Korath said as he handed over his command codes. "We had superior numbers, better technology, more advanced tactics. How did you defeat us so completely?" Minho looked out at the stars where human ships were escorting the remnants of the alien fleet out of the solar system. "You made the same mistake that many people make about Deathworlders. You thought surviving in harsh conditions made us weak. Actually, it made us strong." He turned back to the alien admiral. "Every human child learns to deal with natural disasters, dangerous animals, and hostile weather. Every human adult has faced situations that would kill most aliens instantly. When you attacked us, you were not Figgy.